Welcome back to my channel, everyone. This is JComX, and today we're gonna try something a little bit new. Normally my videos are heavily edited, heavily scripted, and animated, but that takes a lot of time and work. And so in order to bridge the gap between my different videos, I decided I want to talk about the games that I am playing in 2024. That's right, it has been 7 years since the Switch came out, and it is finally in its death throes. The successor to the Switch has been announced by Nintendo, and so we're just waiting to hear on what that is. I thought it would be fun to take a look at the games that I have currently been playing in the year of our Lord 2024. This doesn't mean that I'm only going to be talking about games that came out in 2024, only games that I am still playing in 2024. I'll be doing a few of these videos just because I've played a lot of games, but if you like this style of video and you want to see more of these in between my regular uploads, let me know down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's get into the games. We are starting off with a heavy hitter, Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Now, this game came out late last year, but I only finished it at the beginning of this year, and it has become one of my favorite 2D Mario games, right up there with the likes of Super Mario World and Super Mario Bros. 3. One of the best things about it is obviously the art direction. This game looks fantastic. All you need to do is just look at any of the trailers or any of the gameplay, and you can tell that the developers really put their all into making this one of the most fantastic looking Super Mario Bros. Games on the Nintendo Switch. Everything has so much character, there's so many fantastic new enemies, new levels, the backgrounds look incredible, Mario and his friends just have so much life to them. It is just a joy simply to run around this world and play the game. For regular viewers of my channel, it will be no surprise that I am a huge Mario fan. He's one of my favorite Nintendo characters, and he's one of my favorite video game characters of all time. I just love this little plumber guy. And on top of that, you get to play as more than just Mario in this game. You can pick to play as Luigi, you can play as Princess Peach, you can play as the Toads, Toadette, the Yoshis, and even Nabbit. But my favorite of all of the inclusions has to be Princess Daisy. You finally get to play as Daisy, the leader of Sarasa Land, and it's fantastic. I love her, and the fact that all of these characters have so much personality just makes it a joy to play. As far as the gameplay, it's pretty standard for a typical Mario game. It's not super difficult, although if you want to get everything 100%, it can be difficult, and there are some extremely difficult challenges, especially at the end of the game with the bonus level and the standard final Mario gauntlet that put all of your skills to the test, and it's really some fucking bullshit. But if you're not going for 100% completion or all of the challenges, this is a pretty standard difficulty Mario game. There are some challenges, but anyone could probably make it to the end with enough determination. But what sets it apart from the other Mario games is the gimmick of the Wonder Seeds. The Wonder Seeds are basically this game's main collectible. They're kind of like the stars from Mario 64 or the Shine Sprites from Super Mario Sunshine. But in addition to that, if you grab one of the Wonder Seeds in the game, it will totally change up the level, and just all sorts of crazy stuff happens. It's awesome, and it keeps the pace of the game moving like crazy. So you never feel like you're just stuck doing the same thing over and over again, or playing the same kind of Mario game that you've played a million times before. It's really fun, and you can tell that Nintendo really wanted to change things up, especially after the new Super Mario Bros. Series started getting a lot of flack for it being basically just the same thing over and over again. Yes, there are some similar level themes. You've got snow levels, you've got grassland levels, you've got desert levels, but they all look fantastic here. Instead of just a regular desert, you have a desert that's full of white, sun-bleached sand. Instead of a regular cave, you have a cave that's got golden waterfalls and all of these weird geometrical stones. The developers went out of their way to make this feel like a fresh, new experience, even though at its core it still is definitely a Mario game. So if you like 2D Mario games, this one is fantastic and a high recommendation from me. I love this game, and I cannot sing its praises enough. However, it is not a flawless game. My one major issue with this game is the lack of variety when it comes to boss battles, which is a huge bummer because I love characters, I love enemies, I love bosses, and this one completely drops the ball. The only boss, aside from Bowser in this game, is Bowser Jr., and I freaking don't really like Bowser Jr. I do like his redesign here. He does look a lot cooler than he normally does, but in general, he's not my favorite. I do prefer the Koopa Kids, although if I'm being honest, I would prefer something completely new, original new bosses. It's kind kind of a shame to get to the end of a world after all of these amazing levels, and the climax is, another version of the same boss that you've been fighting this whole time. It's a bummer, I will say, it's a bummer. But the rest of the game is fantastic, and so it is a small blight on an otherwise fantastic game. So, just be aware of that. The bosses are nothing to write home about, but if you like Mario games, the rest of the game has you covered here. This might be one of my favorite games that I've played this year, if not one of my favorite games on the entire Nintendo Switch. Pokemon Sword and Shield. Oh boy. There's a lot to be said about this game. So this game, as you might know, came out actually a long time ago. It came out early on in the Switch's life cycle. It was the first major Pokemon game on the Nintendo Switch. So it's by no means a new game, but I only completed this game for the first time this year. And part of that is due to the fact that when this game first came out, I was a little bit burnt out on Pokemon, I'm gonna be honest. I've been in the series since the beginning, and while I've taken a few breaks here or there, in general, I've played a lot of Pokemon. When the game was first announced, I was pretty stoked because they pitched it as the first open-world Pokemon game. A lot of people were criticizing the visuals and the models of the Pokemon, saying that they were just reused and that Nintendo was rushed, which is true. There is criticism about that. However, in retrospect, this is probably one of the best-looking Pokemon games on the Switch, so take that as you will. But it turns out that this was essentially your standard Pokemon game, albeit with a bit of an open-world element to it. There is this huge section in the game, it's called the Wild Area, and it is kind of what everyone was hoping for, but it's only one part of the game, and the rest of the game is just your standard Pokemon game where you're running through, getting badges, doing all of the battle tower and all of that kind of stuff, and it was a letdown for a lot of people, myself included. The game is still fun, but if you're a returning veteran Pokemon player and you've played a lot of the games before this, there just isn't really a ton to set it apart from the other games. So it kind of feels like it's just a micro step forward for the series. But now we have Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and Pokemon Arceus, and looking back, my feelings have softened a lot on Pokemon Sword and Shield. Not that I ever hated the game, I just wasn't very excited about it. One of the best things about this game is being able to play multiplayer. You can run around with your friends in the wild area, you can set up tents and make curry together, you can do raid battles together, you can just battle each other and trade. There's a lot of multiplayer elements that are really fun in this game, and Pokemon kind of lives or dies based on its multiplayer elements. And that's ultimately what has kept me coming back to the game. My friend Josh Dean, who you might know from the channel from some of my episodes, really loves this game. He's played the DLC, he's become the champion, he's done basically everything you can do in this game, and he's essentially kept me coming back to the game over and over again, although I still haven't played and beaten the DLC yet. That and shiny hunting. I have a problem. I love shiny Pokemon, and when I start shiny hunting, I cannot stop shiny hunting. It is a soul-crushing, spirit-destroying activity, and I just can't stop sometimes. And part of the issue with that is that once I start shiny hunting, then I kind of put the rest of the game on hold until I get all of the shiny Pokemon that I want, and then I can continue the game. And that's why it's taken me like 5 years to beat this game. The first shiny Pokemon that I got is my favorite, my shiny Dracovish, even though I spent hours and hours and hours finding the fossils because Dracovish is not native to my version of the game. I was pretty lucky to get him as fast as I did. It only took me about 2,000 or so resets, which is still a long time, but for those of you who know how Pokemon shiny odds work and have had really grueling shiny hunts, you'll know that that's actually pretty fucking lucky. And once I got him, I was so happy. I busted through the game. He was on my team the rest of the time. I love him. He is my horrifying abomination nightmare. And then after that, I've spent dozens and dozens and dozens of hours hatching a bunch more shiny Pokemon. Right now, I'm kind of working on a shiny rock gym leader style kind of a thing. It's loosely rock-based, rock being my favorite type of Pokemon, but there are some like steel, some ground types, and some that are just kind of like rock-ish themed, like Turtonator. But stuff like that has kept me coming back to this game over and over again. Overall, this is not the most groundbreaking or most impressive Pokemon game, but it is a fun Pokemon game. I think it's very overhated because it's not what people wanted it to be, and it continues not to be what people want it to be. However, there are some really fun things. The Dynamax battles are really awesome and epic. Some of the music is fantastic, like the Battle Tower music and the Gym Leader music. And it is fun to run around the wild areas. So if you're in the market for a standard Pokemon game with some cool gimmicks, then this is a really good time. However, it is not my favorite Pokemon game on the Switch, and it's far from my favorite Pokemon game in general. F-Zero 99. now we're talking. The return of the F-Zero franchise did not come with an explosion or a bang. It came with more like a, oh, this isn't really what we want. And to be honest, that was kind of my reaction when I first saw F-Zero 99. I was like, the Super Nintendo version? Aw, come on. We don't even get like an F-Zero GX remake or just a brand new F-Zero game. I love F-Zero, and I've been wanting that high-octane F-Zero game, the new cutting-edge thing that a lot of fans have been wanting for a long time. And so when F-Zero 99 was announced, I was a bit bummed out. I was still stoked to see the franchise return in some capacity, just so that Nintendo acknowledges, outside of Super Smash Bros., that F-Zero is a thing, but it wasn't the thing that I was wanting it to be. And so I held off on playing it for a few months, but eventually I did download it and I did start playing it at the beginning of this year, and to my surprise, I got instantly hooked. This is an awesome game. It is so fun, it is high octane, it is ruthless, it is hard, it is everything that F-Zero at its core is. It's probably one of the most F-Zero games out there. The controls are smooth and relatively easy to pick up, and the game is surprisingly addicting. When I first started playing, there was some kind of a tournament or an event going on. It was like a winter thing. Everyone was spinning around and shimmering with like these snowflake particles. It was really cool. And at first I was like, okay, this is kind of what I expect. But then you finish your first race and you're like, oh, I could probably do better. And then you do your second race, your third, and soon enough, you're just playing every day. I don't know how much more I can say about this game just because you kind of just have to try it and play it. It's very fun, and I do highly recommend it. It's a free game, I'm pretty sure, so just download it and give it a try, and I think you'll be impressed with how much replayability there is in this game. It's not a replacement for the next big F-Zero game, but it is fun, and again, like I said, at its core, it is a very F-Zero game. It is grueling. It took me forever just to be able to see every track there is in the game, because in order to see the final course on the King's Course, you have to get in the top 20, which is extremely difficult to do when you're racing 99 other racers who have been playing this game for a lot longer than you. There's different skins and cosmetics and things like that, so there's a lot to keep you coming back for more. F-Zero 99 is probably the biggest surprise hit of this year for me and one of my favorite of the 99 style games. Definitely worth your time. And finally for this video, we have got Splatoon 3. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't played a ton of Splatoon 3 this year, but I have played enough that I decided that I would put it on this list. If you've played Splatoon 1 or Splatoon 2, then you basically get the gist of Splatoon 3. There are new modes and new weapons and new stages to battle on, but the core gameplay is as Splatoon as it gets. When the Switch first came out, I played a ton of Splatoon 2, and then I kind of fell off after a while because of all of the other new games that were coming out, but when Splatoon 3 was announced, it kind of reinvigorated my excitement for the series. My wife Lexington, who you also might know from my channel, is also a huge Splatoon fan. She's way better than I am and has played way more than me as well. If you want to check out her channel, by the way, it's Lex Plays at LexiDLuffy on YouTube. So we picked up Splatoon 3 when we had a chance and we started playing it, and it's awesome. It's more Splatoon for your buck. If you're just getting into the franchise for the first time, this is definitely the game to pick up. It has the most modes, the most weapons, the single player is awesome, and it's basically just upgraded everything from the previous Splatoon games and done more with it. My favorite mode while I was playing Splatoon 2 was probably the Turf War. I love the Turf War, and I still do. When I got on for this video, it happened to be a Splatfest, which is a community event where everyone picks a team and you duke it out in Turf War, and whichever team gets the most points wins, which was really awesome. I didn't know there was a Splatfest going on, but I hopped into the Turf War for a few rounds, and I ended up, of course, playing a lot more than I was expecting to, because it's just a really fun game. But the mode that I've spent the most time playing in this game has got to be the Salmon Run. Salmon Run was introduced in the previous game, but they've added a bunch of new maps in this version, and they've added giant kaiju monsters, which is fucking awesome. And it's hard as shit. I still don't think I've even beaten one of the kaiju monsters yet because they are extremely difficult. Salmon Run is also, in my opinion, the best mode to play with your friends. If you can get 3 of your other friends who are into Splatoon online, then you can team up with 4 people and do a co-op zombie horde wave mode, where rather than fighting each other, you're attacking hordes of these salmonids, which are basically zombie fish. The vibe of Salmon Run is immaculate. It's so creepy, it's so weird. You're working for this weird capitalist bear guy that you never end up seeing. His name is Mr. Grizz, and he's hiring all of these squid children and exploiting their work in these extremely dangerous conditions to get eggs that he's presumably eating. And I can only assume that these eggs are the children of the zombie hordes that you're battling back. So you're essentially being hired to go out, steal these eggs, the children, from these zombie fish, and then kill them and survive so that you can give these eggs to your exploitative employer who's a bear who's gonna eat them. It's so fucked up and I fucking love it. It's this weird, relatable, dystopian, creepy vibe, and I think it's awesome. As always, the music in Splatoon slaps. They're constantly playing bangers when you're doing anything in Splatoon, whether it's in the Salmon Run mode or the Turf War. The music is just awesome, and the vibe, the style. Splatoon brings back that, like, 90s skater, rebellious kind of vibe, and it's awesome. One of the most stylish of Nintendo's IPs. The fan base can be pretty toxic from what I hear. I basically try to stay away from the fan base at all costs. I mostly just like to play it in the game, but I don't go onto any message boards or interact with any of the other people. So I can't vouch for any of that, and I don't blame anyone if that leaves a bad taste in their mouth. But just the gameplay and the game itself, the style, the visuals, the music, and all of this stuff aside from that is awesome. I love Splatoon 3, and I'm going to be playing more of it. In fact, talking about it is making me want to play it. So that's going to do it for this episode of what I've been playing in 2024. Like I said before, if you like this type of content, comment down below. Tell me what your favorite game on the Switch is, and if you want me to cover more games. I can go more in depth with any of these games, or I can talk about other games that I've played on the Switch. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.